From cornfields to high-rises, office to industrial, houses to hotels, and every other asset class in real estate, we cover the people, the projects, and the profit. Welcome to the Investing in Iowa show. This show is for go-doers, action takers, and business owners. It's for people like you who are sick of Uncle Sam taking a huge bite of your apple. If you're looking to get ahead of what's taking place in Iowa, learn who is doing what, and how you can get in on the action, you're in the right place. Hosted by Neil Timmins, an Iowa native who has been involved in over $300 million in real estate right here in Iowa. Recording in studio from West Des Moines, here's your host, Neil Timmins.
I've got Shane Torres here on the show. Shane, welcome. Thanks for having me. Thanks for being here. Say, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Well, as you said, my name is Shane Torres. I am from, that's a loaded question, but we're just going to say Polk City, Iowa.
Okay.
I am the principal owner of Remax, or a principal owner of Remax Concepts, and a few other entities that we have.
A few other things. You got your hands full. I know that's an understatement. All right. So one of the principal owners of Concepts. Tell me, how did you get into real estate from the get-go?
I was a bankrupt builder and had to figure out what else I could do, and ended up going down the real estate path, and the rest is history.
How did you? Let's take me back to that beginning. Yeah. So the builder side. What did you build? How many did you build? What year are we talking about?
Yeah, so this would have started in 2003, I believe. I started as a framing contractor, had a framing company, worked up to building houses, and then also, so we kept framing this entire time. We had siding crews. We plowed snow, you name it, we were doing it. We were probably doing 30 to 40 houses a year. We were framing hotels, retirement centers, and things like that. And then things were flowing until 2008, 2009, and everything crashed. And that's when, I lost everything in that regard, and filed Chapter 7 and almost went into foreclosure. Well, I did go into foreclosure, almost lost my house in foreclosure. So, yes.
What did you learn from let's call it that experience?
All sorts of things. I learned stuff from a personal standpoint, and what my priorities and what I was doing was wrong, and how I was putting work above my family and things like that. I learned a hard lesson on one of the dumbest things I ever did was go into a local Ford dealer and buy 2 brand new trucks, in which I crashed one 4 months later and totaled it. Right. So, I come from a very, poor upbringing. So I never learned anything about bad money or anything about that, self-taught. So, as money was coming in, it was going out. So we didn't really have a reserve or anything like that. So, and then the biggest one is not to let your ego and pride get in the way. So by that, I mean, when I got into, in my early 20s, like most, you get all these credit cards and stuff in the mail, and you grab them, you rack them up, and the next thing you know, you're in credit card debt, right? So I worked my way out of that to build my credit score back up. So once things started going downhill in 2008, 2009, I kept maintaining these huge payments every month on all my stuff, even though I wasn't making money, because I wanted to save that credit score. Instead, I should have let my ego and pride go and just went to the bank and renegotiated or something like that. Well, that being said, I wouldn't be here today if I would have renegotiated that, but my pride and ego, I finally just had to cut that and let it go and realize it's just a number that I can get back.
All right. So you come through 2008, 2009.
Yep.
File bankruptcy. Where do you go from there?
So, I actually, when I filed, I went through a few months of what I would consider dark depression. Looking back, I wouldn't have said that then, but now I know. I applied at multiple jobs all over the Midwest because I'd only ever worked for myself, but I was applying for all these construction companies, but nobody was hired, So I was actually going to go be my aunt and uncle owned a pretty successful directional drilling company, and they told me they'd pay for me to go to trucking school, and I could come drive truck for them. So I was going to do that, but they're gone like 8, 9 months out of the year. So in the middle of all this, while I'm going through foreclosure, bankruptcy, lawsuits, all this stuff. My wife tells me we're going to have our third kid. And then she says, I don't care if we lose the house, but you can't be gone 9 months out of the year. Okay, now what? So I'd actually already started down the path to get my real estate license when I was building. And I again, I thought I knew everything. So I took the test really without studying. I actually passed the national one right away, but I failed the state one 3 times. And so I'm like, well, maybe I should try real estate. So I actually borrowed some money from my father-in-law to pay for the test and stuff like that. Came up with my own variation of how I could study, and I passed it. I picked the brokerage that I went to and that I'm now an owner of by one. I used to drive by 2 all the time, one in Ankeny, one in Grimes. And my agent at the time was an agent at Remax Concepts. So I just called her and said, hey, she's like, I don't care. So I went to the Grimes one, met the broker at the time, and he brought me over. And one said flash forward to now, I'm an owner of it. So
you work your way through selling as an agent.
Yeah.
And just chipped away, did everything you could in that world, and then eventually became an owner. And then how did your role change at the time you became an owner?
Well, let's start back to when I became an agent.
Yeah.
So when I became an agent, again, in 2009, the whole housing market's crashed. Nobody knows what they're doing. I got my license, and I was still doing construction for a friend in the morning, and he let me do real estate in the afternoon. And then I started seeing all these REOs, these foreclosures. I'm like, well, maybe I can do that. And so I started looking into it. And I found out, I figured you got to know someone to get into that. It's harder. So then shortly after that, there was these classes coming to town about short sales. And so I took a few of those classes and I walked out of there and I'm like, this is genius. So I started throwing all this stuff together. And by throwing it together, I took little pieces from all the courses and created my own content from it. And I started down the short sale path. And at one point, I was controlling over 25% of the short sales in Des Moines Metro. So that's kind of the foundation that it was built on.
Yeah.
And I built up and I started branching into other areas, local marketing and stuff with my community. And as one area was going down, the other was going up. So in 2012, I decided I wanted to start a team, and I hadn't really even brought anyone on yet. I started calling myself a team, even though I didn't have anyone yet. I started going to rebrand, and I started looking at, maybe I wanted to be a broker or an owner and to help people more. And so I actually tried to talk to a few individuals locally, and nobody would talk to me. They wouldn't tell me how they did it. And so I started making connections around the country. Talked to a guy on the East Coast, and he's like, yeah, I can talk to you, but it's $1,000 an hour. I'm like, I can't do that. So then he's like, but my buddy might talk to you. So his name, he's out of Scottsdale area, Joshua Smith. And I talked to him. This is before he has a podcast that blew up, before he started his podcast. He gave me 30 minutes. And so what he told me helped out, resonated tremendously. So I actually then opened a team office. And then from there, the opportunity came to buy into another actual office. So I flipped my team office into a traditional office. And then I bought into another office. And then flash forward to 2016, the prior owner approached my now partners and I and said, hey, I want you to buy me out. And so that was 2016. And so I went from, Chapter 7 in 2009 to an owner of what's now the largest real estate company in the state within 7 years.
Hi, it's Ava Baukamp, the Investment Relations Manager for Neil's firm, Legacy Impact Investors. I'm inviting you to join us for our next investor workshop, our monthly legacy briefings. In these tactical Zoom calls, we cover topics and case studies for subjects such as taxes and depreciation, navigating macroeconomic shifts, and evaluating deals as a passive investor. At each virtual workshop, we are joined by an industry guest who covers their topic in 45 minutes or less. No fluff, no pitches, just education and conversation with an expert each month. Every workshop ends with live Q&A from Neil and our guest. All briefings happen on the last Tuesday of the month at 3 p.m. Central. If you can't make it live, recordings are sent out exclusively to those who've registered in advance. To join us on the last Tuesday of this month, visit legacybriefing.com. Go to legacybriefing.com to register. If you're a first-time registrant, I'll send you a free resource at sign up. Head to legacybriefing.com and I'll see you soon.
So,
what do you attribute that to?
I've always attributed it to really three things: being really consistent in what I do, being disciplined in what I do. I have a very specific regimen and routines. I'm very systematic as far as calendaring, and this goes back to when I started as a framing contractor, packing studs, right, as the bottom of the pole. I just watch what everyone else is doing and be ready for opportunities when they present themselves, and adapt and adjust and look at it and say, if I can figure it out, move forward. If not, and it doesn't make sense, then not move forward. So I just take advantage of opportunities as they've come.
Well, speaking of that, I know we've talked very heavily about your background and then into the brokerage side of the business, but at the same time, you've been acquiring properties.
Yeah.
You've been constructing.
Yes.
In some regards. So talk to me about that and maybe take me back and put some time frames on it so I understand where those run in parallel to the team side of things and the ownership of the brokerage.
Yeah. So I started getting back into acquiring properties. I want to say the first one was 2013, 2014, and it was a duplex in Polk City. Keep in mind, I went through Chapter 7, and, I got sued in federal court by a bank, and all of that got tossed out by an amount. So I had judgments against me and stuff. So it wasn't the easiest to get a loan.
No, I was just going to ask, how do you scrape together the money to get?
But I did.
Yeah.
So I actually, I then and now only work with locally owned banks. And I went and sat down with the president of the bank at the time, and he asked me why I came to him, and I said, because he's the decision maker, and he knew my background, he knew what I accomplished since then. I didn't want to do it on my own, though, so I did have partners that I brought into it. And then from there, again, it happened with necessity. So when I decided, I think this was 2014, I decided I wanted to relocate our office in Polk City into a new building. And there was a retail strip center being built, and I just couldn't come to terms with the owner on the price and stuff. So I always saw this vacant piece of land sitting there forever, and I started looking into it more. And it was a piece of land that had been acquired 10 years ago at a tax sale by a company over in eastern Iowa. So I just approached them and started going down the path to buy it and build our own building to relocate our Remax office to. And again, I didn't want to do it on my own, so I brought in partners, and I had a friend who wanted to open her own eye care business. So she has one half the building, the other half. So it's essentially 100% owner occupied. Bank loves that.
Correct.
So we're paying herself. And then, so as it continued to snowball, I flipped properties here and there. I got up to, I think, about 30 single families. And then I decided that I don't want to deal with single families because I don't want to deal with the people. So I started morphing into commercial.
I echo that one.
Yeah. So I started morphing into commercial. We again, out of necessity, we wanted to an office in Waukee. There wasn't space. We couldn't come to terms with anyone. So going down, making connections with the right people, we built the building. And,
all right. So when you say we built the building, what do you mean by that?
My development company. So at that particular company, it was me and two other people.
Okay. So you go out, you GC the whole thing and run the project.
I didn't GC it. One of my partners in that building and some of my other buildings actually is the VP of a GC company. Okay. So he's been the contractor on all of them. Yep. I could GC it if I wanted to. I don't have time for that.
But you and a partner.
I oversee it.
Yeah, your partner comes in. He's on the deal with you, and as a result, that's his role. That's a role of his.
Correct.
The deal is to do the project.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So, and then actually, we weren't looking at selling that building, but the market was so crazy that we once I filled it. This was during COVID, so we're up to 2020 now. Yep. I filled it, and I turned around and listed it really high, and what I thought was high, and we got a 1031 and sold it. So I had a very good return, within 18 months.
And in that period, you executed a lease with Remax.
Yes. So
have the brokerage.
Yep.
Right. So quasi, not exactly a sale leaseback.
Yeah.
Per se.
Yep. So a lot of our building, not a lot of all of the buildings that we own, or most of them are Remax is in there, and they lease back from our development companies or our holding companies.
That's just a muscle that makes sense, is it not?
Yeah, no, for sure it does. So any development we've done, that we're working on then and or now. I bought opportunity presented itself to buy half, or not even half. It was like a 10% finished townhome project in Grimes. One of my partners and I bought that, and we finished it. Now we're finishing up a retail center in Polk City. Again, that's built out of necessity, meaning the community, not necessarily was a necessity to us, but the community needs more hospitality. So we're putting a restaurant in it. We're putting a Duck Donuts shop in it, which we're going to own those as well. That's a necessity for the community. We've developed a childcare center in a local community not too far away. The community had no childcare whatsoever until we did that. So opportunities that be just being ready, and if it makes sense.
Yeah. Question for you: why Iowa? You have a lot of choices. You could do a lot of things, especially at this point, at the level of success you have today. You could probably call it quit and sail off. But you used to be here. It used to be very active here. Why here?
Well, I mean, I've always been here, but I think it's easier to work in than some of the other states as far as regulations and stuff go. I don't think the taxes are horrible compared to some states. And again, I like to build and do things in the communities in which I'm involved or that I'm around. I like to be able to either, whether it's, I say drive within 3 hours or fly within 2 for me to be able to do anything.
Okay.
And so Iowa fits that. Yes, I could probably be done and not do anything anymore, but I would get extremely bored if I did that. So
drive within 3 gets you about to almost every corner of the state.
Almost, except for the north west. That's about 4 to 4.5 hours, and that is the most horrible drive ever. It's just there's nothing but turns. So yeah, because we had a office up there and it didn't really work out, so we got rid of that and sold it, and
then created the rule.
No, I had the rule before that. I had the rule. You know what? I had the rule before that, and for whatever reason, I talked myself out of it that one time, and I won't ever do that again. So yes, you could do that now. Our farthest office now is Moline, and I can get from here to our Moline office in just under 3 hours. So,
what are the top? Drew, looking back at your experiences, if another investor was to go down a path, let's talk about construction. What are the top 2 or 3 things would you say when you're going to build something, go vertical, whether it's from back or whether it's you've got somebody in place there? What are the top things that have attributed to your success?
I think again, just doing it in specific areas that were in need of it, or bringing things that are needed, because at the time everyone was saying stay away from retail. So just like our Waukee building that we did, that we didn't necessarily need another retail strip center there, but that grocery store there, Hy-Vee, is, when we looked at it, had the most traffic of any one of their locations in the state of Iowa. Very high traffic. So then now when we did that building, we were the highest per square foot in rents, and everyone thought we were crazy. Flash forward to now, Kettlestone was taking off, and we're on the low end compared to what some of those rents are out there. So I think, again, it's provided a necessity to, the community, and just being really selective of where we do things.
Is there an asset class you like most? From an investment standpoint?
I like the retail. Yeah. I like the retail, triple net. My ultimate goal, and I'm a ways from this because, in my opinion, it's a different tax bracket. I would like to work up to the absolute net leases.
Yep.
But those are big buildings, big national corporations.
I just had coffee this morning. We were talking about that, and a lot of people. I noticed this today, probably just based on who I happen to know when these conversations have come up. A lot of people in the C-class apartment space trading out of those into absolute net, and that is the retirement plan. Make a killing in C-class apartments, roll it up and set it and forget it.
Yeah, I've always told people, the natural progression is you start out flipping houses, maybe you go to single-family rentals, work your way up to multifamily, then maybe jump into commercial. I jumped right over the multifamily and just went into commercial.
Yeah. Any regrets with that?
No, I wouldn't say there's regrets with that. I mean, there's times where I look at some of these, especially, and again, I'm like, this is like a pipe dream right now anyway. I see some of these complexes coming on the market, $15, $20, $30 million, thinking that would be really cool, actually.
Yeah.
But no, I don't have any regrets from that. Because you still got to deal with people.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah, with retail, or triple, even now with triple net, obviously you still deal with people, but they're paying all the bills. Once you get them in there from that aspect.
Get them in there, you're targeting business people.
Yeah.
If you're a house flipper, execute the burst strategy or do double closings and are in need of money, Little Guy Loans is your go-to lender here in the Des Moines area. Time is money. Loan approvals in 24 hours. Closings in 5 days. Little Guy Loans was founded by Neil Timmins, an investor just like you. Since he has been in over 10,000 homes in Des Moines, there's never an appraisal. Houses, multifamily, and commercial property loans up to $1 million. Check out www.littleguyloans.com.
Yeah, and I say when we build our buildings, there's obviously Class A, Class B, Class C. Mm-hmm. We're Class A plus. Like we always go above and beyond what we need to do for our build.
Give me an example of something that you would do in the construction side that makes that true. Or makes you say that.
Well, I'll use a lot of it's in our finishes and the appearance, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll use the one in Waukee as an example. At the time, everybody was doing all these cedar accents and stuff. Those eventually fade away. And they're trendy, right? Correct. So we actually put these really expensive steel panels on the front of our building that as rain hit them, they kind of turned into rusty, bronzy colors.
Yeah.
And then lots of glass, lots of modern finishes, which weren't being done at the time. But that's what allowed us to get the higher rents.
Yeah. You've got to separate your product somehow.
Right.
Do it through physical construction.
Correct.
Yeah. What are you most excited about this year?
I'll be honest. I've got so many projects that are going right now. I'll be excited for them to be done. And then I'm gonna pause for a little bit.
Yeah.
Get these all rolling. Like I said, we got our retail center that's done. The restaurant is pretty close to being done in opening in June. The donut shop is close to being done in opening in July. And then we're still obviously building up our childcare facility. So once that's done and they're running on their own and self-sustaining, I will focus my attention to, so we bought an old church building in our community a few years ago to flip into a youth teen center for the kids, which is my wife's passion project. Through a variety of things, we hit a lot of snags as far as redoing it. It's an old building. It's one of the oldest in town. Issues with the city, things like that. Excess costs that, we knew would come, but not at the level it did. So I need to turn my focus to finishing that project.
I'm curious. I've got a friend of mine. He remodeled a church into a family residence. That's where he's worked for 10 years at this point. Mm-hmm. And he always said the one thing you should do if you're going to remodel a church into a single family resident is take your budget and triple it. How far from his truth is your experience?
We're not tripled, but it's about 2.5.
Yeah.
It's up there.
Yeah.
Because everything, and then again, there's things that the city did, like, make us put in a fire suppression system, even though it's really not necessary because it's under 10,000 square feet. But because we changed the zoning, we automatically have to put in a grease pit, even though we're not making food. The grease pit is being forced in just because we're going to have a pop machine, a soda fountain machine, and a dishwasher. So for that, I've got to put in like an $80,000 grease pit. Refurbishing isn't cheap. It had significant water issues, so we had to spend a lot on redoing exterior basement walls and waterproofing and drainage systems. And so when you look at it, it looks like it's still got a ways to go. The outside's about 90% done. The inside's at the 50% way done. It's ready to start putting back. Actually, we have to drop the sanctuary floor 3 feet on the one side. That's a huge undertaking. But after that, it's ready to put back together. So that'll be where I turn my attention to.
What's the timeline
there? I wish I could say. I don't know. I really don't.
24?
Probably not.
Okay. No. Yeah.
Probably not.
Got it. Well, this is amazing. I know. I'm certain we could talk for hours.
Oh, for sure.
Let's do this. I got the final 3 questions. You ready?
Yep.
If you had one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
To let your ego get in the way.
2 books that changed your life.
Rock Bottom to Rock Star by Brian Blair. And, man, there's so many. You know what? I'm actually not done with it yet, but Dave Weniger, the founder of Remax, just released a new one that I'm in the middle of right now. Listen to him. I'm only in chapter 2, and I've gotten so much out of just in that. I actually told my wife the other day, because when we were at the Remax conference this year, they were handing out free hard copies. Yeah. Well, the book's this thick. I don't want to carry that around. And he autographed it. I told her I would show it. I'll autograph copy now because it's really good. So I'm not done with that one yet, but so let's see, Ryan Blair, and then I would say, I was going to say the compound effect, but that's not the one I'm thinking of. You know what? I'm just going to look it up. So I listen because I don't retain too well when I read.
It's always funny to hear how people consume that. There's so many different ways today. Actually,
this isn't the one I was going to say, but Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright, it's part of the Rich Dad Poor Dad series.
Yeah,
that was that's an awesome book. It sounds weird because it's about taxes, but it is really good.
I have read it. It is very good.
Atomic Habits is what I was thinking of.
Atomic Habits.
Yep.
If you were cast away on an island for a year, you could only get 3 pieces of data about your business each and every month.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you pick your business, however you define that. What 3 things must you know?
I want to know what business is coming in regularly. By that I mean weekly. And then I want to know how much we're actually closing monthly. So that's 2 reports, and then just the financial statements.
Got it. You got it dialed in there. Shane, this is great. I mean, you and I remember back to that 2009, 2010 era when you got in and started doing short sales. I was in short sales all the time. Mm-hmm. Nobody had more short sale business between the 2 of us in this whole market.
Right.
I remember that era. It was
so interesting fact, my first deal ever was with one of your team agents at the time.
That I did not know.
Yeah, who's one of our agents still, Jason Stuyvesant.
Oh, my God. Jason's a good friend. Yes.
So I think it might have been his first or second deal, and it was my first deal. Yep.
Good guy. We that was an amazing era when I had my team back in that era. We just both participated in the brokerage side of things.
Right.
Sure. Shane, I know we can talk for hours, but we won't. For people that want to find you, they want to follow you, they want to connect with you, where can they go? What should they do?
So social media, Shane Torres, you're going to probably need to look up Remax as well or something like that because there's a comedian with the same name. Or my email, shanetorres@remax.net.
Pull on the show notes for everybody. Shane,
thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the show, may I ask a favor of you? Naturally, subscribe so you never miss an episode. But would you rate and leave an honest written review on Apple Podcasts? It does a lot for us here at the show, and I appreciate reading your thoughts. Great guests make for a great show. If you know of another Iowan who would be a great guest, or you yourself have interest in being a guest, well, get on our radar. Visit Investing in Iowa to fill out an application or recommend a guest. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, Go to legacyimpactinvestors.com. Click on the Invest With Us button in the top right corner, and there you can pick a time for the two of us to get on the calendar and connect. Until next time, keep investing in Iowa.